I'm excited to announce that Doug Cartwright and Alchemy Sales are launching their third Alchemy Fest. This is going to be the best one yet. I will be there. You will have exclusive access to me, a lot of my trainings, my design work, so that you can dominate in all aspects of life. I focus on the whole person paradigm, and I will help you live your life by design through my framework that you will receive at Alchemy Fest. Join us at Alchemy Festival 2024 from October 4th through the 7th at Camp Navarro in the Redwoods of California. Head over to the link in the description and remember to use code LLBD200 for the special discount that I am offering. Can't wait to see you there. Now, let's all jump into this next episode. We have Andre Dawson in the house. Pleasure to be here with you today. I remember watching you play when I was a kid. I grew up in Puerto Rico, and you were on WGN when you were with the Cubs, and then I mainly remember you from the Montreal Expos. In fact, in Puerto Rico, we used to go quite often to the Howard Johnson Hotel, and they would serve sundaes in little helmets, like little plastic helmets. And I remember ordering the ones with the Expos because of you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure to be with you today. And you currently live in Miami?
Miami, born and raised.
You're born and raised in Miami, and you actually played with the organization, right, towards the end of your career?
My last 2 years, year 19 and 20, got the opportunity to see what it was like playing at home. It wasn't everything that it was built up to be.
It wasn't, huh?
Yeah, your phone don't stop ringing, and you get to sleep in your own bed, and you're around family for the most part. But everybody wants tickets, and it's a little bit different.
Is it? Yeah. So how long were you in Major League Baseball? How many years?
Major League Baseball, I had 20 years and
20 years.
and a month.
That's in a month. Not that you're counting, right? That's a long, long career. What, I guess, out of all those years, some of your favorite memories, what would they be? Times that were super memorable for you.
Wow, there were. Well, let's say I had the most fun in Chicago.
In Chicago?
I got my start, of course, in Montreal, and I was most grateful for that. Learned a lot, what it was like playing across the border. Entering, leaving the country, customs, and the French and English language barrier. So it was a little bit different.
Did you pick up on French?
In the States. Ben, no. Not too much.
Yeah.
What I did learn was the menu, of course, because
yeah.
you got to be mindful of what you're eating. But no, I didn't. It was tough enough just speaking English.
Yeah, no doubt. I got you. Okay. And then when you were with the Cubs, name some of the players that were on the squad with you.
Oh, wow. Well, the year that we won it, we had the two rookie sensations. That was Dwight Smith and Jerome Walton. But I played with Rick Sutcliffe, Greg Maddox, Ryan Sandberg, Sean Dunston, Leon Durham, Mark Grace. So I played with some pretty good ball players when I was there.
That's awesome. Okay. And then you won some pretty cool awards. On my notes, I have that you're an 8-time Gold Glover. That's insane. That's insanity.
When I saw that award, I only wanted to win it one time.
And you just so happened to do it 7 more.
Right, because I thought it was one of the more attractive awards in the game itself. But I took a lot of pride in defense. I felt that I was blessed with 5 tools, and you go out and you work at it. You don't let one aspect overshadow the other. So I worked very diligently on my defense, and the results were 8 Gold Gloves.
Do you feel like even back then was it different, where most people focused on the plate versus the fielding versus the defense?
Well, it was a different game. Of course, back then than it is today. You had a lot of good outfielders, and I felt very fortunate. There were a lot of players that could have won that award, but I do feel that we had a few more players that were considered 4-tool, 5-tool players than you see today. Today you have a lot of good ball players, but the focus so much is on offense that, they don't. I notice a lot they don't have a lot of good footwork, when it comes to playing defensively, and I'm speaking primarily about the outfielders. And that's something that you learn in the minor leagues. And when you get to the big leagues, you already have it down. But I just feel that in my era, we did have a lot of players that took a lot of pride in their defense.
That's cool. And then when you were growing up, who were some of your heroes in baseball?
As a kid, as a player, as a kid, I grew up in a household that...
And let's do as a player, too.
Okay, I grew up in a household where my uncles were Dodger fans.
Okay.
Now, of course, they're all the way out on the West Coast, and it's a 3-hour time difference, so you don't get to see any games.
And why were they Dodgers fans, being all the way out in Florida?
Well, I think it started out that they were Brooklyn Dodger fans, and then moved to Los Angeles.
Got it.
And I became a Dodger fan, of course, but you couldn't really get the scores until the following day because of the time difference. And I can recall the stars of that time were Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, and those were the guys that just stood out. They were constantly in the media. So you sort of took a following to them. And growing up, I tried to follow those individuals. When I got to high school and then on into college, we saw a lot of the Atlanta Braves games because
thanks to TBS.
Yes, of course. And now I'm a huge Aaron fan. He's hitting home runs on a constant basis, and I got to see a young, energetic Dusty Baker, and I was like, wow, I like the way he played the field. And he became an idol and became a close friend once I got to the big leagues. But the names that just jump out at you, Roberto Clemente.
I was glad you mentioned that one.
Roberto Clemente. Yeah, I saw the highlights, and this guy was just amazing.
Yeah.
And when you see, he was a right fielder, of course, and my playing center. But when you see a guy make the kind of plays that he was making, and then on top of that, he's outstanding offensively. He's well-rounded. So, of course, you take a certain liking towards him.
How many more years do you think he could have played in the league, Roberto Clemente?
Before his tragedy, I would say, because he always made it look so easy, it would have been probably up to him how long he wanted to play. You've had some players play well into their 40s and some mid 40s and so on. But I would say, given where he was at the time, 5 years easily.
That's crazy. We probably didn't see his best. Is what's so unfortunate. He's definitely one of my childhood heroes. In fact, my dad was on a phone call with him just days before his passing, getting some supplies for that humanitarian trip that he was headed on.
Yeah, one of the players I always wanted to meet. Of course, I met Stargell and Parker and that gang when they had the We Are Family going, but I think I was in high school at the time when Roberto passed, and one of those individuals I always looked forward to hopefully one day meeting.
Yeah. In Puerto Rico, we have teams that are called the 21s, Los 21s, in honor of Clemente and his family. Let's see. So the Hawk. Tell me about that nickname. How'd you get that nickname?
Way back early childhood, I'm watching the men's travel team practice, and I'm just on the sidelines, on the bench actually. And as they would finish practice, one of my uncles would call me out, and he'd hit me ground balls. They'd throw me batting practice. And if the ball took a bad hop, he'd put me on third base. And if the ball took a bad hop, ricochet off my body, he said, I pounced on it, and it reminded him of a hawk. He said, for a kid your age, you don't seem to really fear the baseball. And he just started calling me Hawk, and for whatever reason,
It stuck.
it stuck. But, my family, my childhood nickname was Pudgy. I don't know why I was never really a fat kid.
Oh, Pudgy?
But yeah, they called me Pudgy. But the Hawk seemed to stick throughout baseball, and I would hear stories, you have this intense scowl about you. But for me, that was concentration and focus. But I think a lot of them sort of tried to attribute that to being called the Hawk.
I love it. And then there's a story about you paying your brothers and sisters, your siblings, with cookies.
Yeah, I didn't have much.
And that was for BP?
So I could get cookies 3 for a penny. And a soda was only 5 cents. So I tried to coax them into, okay, if you throw me some rocks or a tennis ball or whatever I had at the time, this is what I reward you with. And, it got to the point where it was it was every day just about. And they enjoyed doing it.
And you used a broomstick as your bat.
Used a broom mop, broke the other end off. Got into a lot of trouble because I broke a lot of neighbors' mops. But
I'm sure they try to claim that it was theirs now, right?
That's what and they even remind me of this. Yeah, do you remember this? No, I don't remember that. But yeah, that's how I got my start. I think it went a long ways into developing my hand-eye coordination because, with a stick like that, and you're trying to hit a rock, I was pretty consistent with it.
Yeah. So actually, from age 5 to 10, I lived in the Dominican Republic, and there it was all the bottle caps,
right,
and broomsticks and mop sticks, and we would also use the 5-gallon water. The water bottles, those big plastic caps, we'd play with those as well. Yeah. And then a lot of kids would use cardboard as their gloves. So imagine what that does, right? When you have the lack of the true resource and you're just coming up with whatever is available to you and you get scrappy, that's when greatness is made.
That's why, that type of individual make the game look so easy.
Okay, and then there's a 300 club that you're part of. What club is that?
Well, there's a few guys that have joined it.
And I have their names here. Let's see how many you can list.
Okay. That's stolen bases and home runs. Of course, I started out myself, the 2 Bondses, and
Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonds.
And Willie Mays.
Willie Mays, yep.
And then, now you have A-Rod, you have Beltran.
Yep. You're missing one more.
I'm missing one more. And I know this, my mind just eclipses me now. But don't tell me, I'll tell you before we wrap
I got you. Yeah, so that's 300 stolen bases and 300 home runs, and it's a short list. And then you are also a member of the Hall of Fame. When did that happen? When did you get inducted into the Hall of Fame?
2010, my 9th year on the ballot. And I felt that...
And then, sorry, how many years do you have of eligibility on the ballot?
Well, now, because of the changes that have been made, you have only 10.
10 years.
Right.
Back then, was
it? I was 15.
15,
yeah.
Okay.
So I was on year number 9. And I got the call. I felt at that point it was no one for me to hurdle to get in. It was the window of opportunity. And sure enough, I got the call. I was the only one to go in 2010.
Crazy. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
That's such an elite group to be a part of. That's awesome. I guess the next question I would want to ask is toughest part throughout your career. What was something that you look back and be like, man, that was tough? And I know that's probably a tough question.
Just being able to go out on an everyday basis. I had a history of knee issues. Throughout my playing career, I would endure 12 knee surgeries between both knees, and playing on the astroturf the first 10 years was very damaging. And I had to bite the bullet a lot. Took a lot of medication, pain pills. So when I still have a stomach, but, I just had to do what I had to do to just try to make sure that I'm feeling well enough to be able to go out and play. And that's probably the toughest thing. Work ethic becomes impeccable because you want to be consistent, you want to stay consistent and keep your job. And I never envisioned playing the game that long. I set a goal at the outset to play 15 years. And that was pretty far-fetched and dreaming also. I was told that you'd be lucky if you played 4 years. That's the average career lifespan. And when I got to year 15, I felt that there was something still in the tank. And those next 5 years came and they flew. And before I knew it, my body was crying out to me and said, it's time to give it up. And I was glad at that point to pass the torch on, because as a kid growing up, the only thing I wanted was an opportunity. I ate and slept the game of baseball, and I was blessed and fortunate enough to be given that opportunity.
That's awesome. How old were you when you said, I'm going to make it into the bigs? Like, this is happening for me.
Well, outside of it being a dream, I guess when I got to the big leagues, I got my first major league hit off of Steve Carlton, and I got the opportunity to play that last month of the season pretty much every day, and they wanted to see what the following year looked like if they were going to keep me on the roster and give me opportunity to win that job. And I started off real slow. For the first time, I felt that I was struggling, and that was at the big league level. I was platooned with Dale Unser, who was a veteran left-handed hitter, and the cold and the dampness and the astroturf took a lot, just to get ready to play and not being able to play every day. So my rhythm was a bit off, and they even entertained the idea of sending me back to the minor league so that I can play on an everyday basis. But I hit my first home run off of a right-hander, and that was Buzz Capra in Atlanta on a game I wasn't supposed to start. And I got a couple of hits the next day, and for whatever reason, they started playing me every day. And I went ahead and I won the Rookie of the Year award. And I felt at that particular moment that, okay, I'm on my way. I figured a lot out. There's still a lot to learn, but I never doubted that I could play at that level. I just, had to let things come together.
That's awesome. Most memorable moment?
My most memorable moment was when my first son was born.
Oof.
Because it was a day game.
How many kids you got?
I got a attorney, and then I have my son, my boy and a girl. I was supposed to have the day off. We had flown in from the West Coast, and my wife was expected to. This was a Sunday night that we took the trip back to Chicago, and she was expected the following day on Monday, and she's probably going to hate me for this, but she drank some wine coolers because she was starting to go into labor, and she thought that would help ease the pain. So she went into labor. We got in time for me to get to the apartment and get her to the hospital. And of course they gave me that game off, and I was at the hospital, and my son was born, and I got the opportunity to hold him before I left the hospital. And as I was holding him, he was looking up at me and he started urinating and it gets all over my shirt. And I said, oh, so this is how it's going to be. So I was able to get back to the ballpark. I still didn't play that particular day, but I got a game signed baseball by the entire team, and I was able to present that to him when he was old enough to know what it was.
And he still has it.
I would hope he still has it. I'm gonna ask him when I get back home. So.
Let's ask him that. Okay, did you remember the other player? Did it come to you?
Other player, it's not Junior. Or is it Junior?
Reggie Sanders.
Reggie Sanders.
There it is.
Funny because Reggie was a good ball player. And, you know, I remember him when he was with the Reds and the players that they had, the lineup, the guys that they had throughout that lineup that could steal bases. They were a team that ran at will. And, you know, then it was E.D., Eric Davis, Barry Larkin. So they had a lot of species in that lineup, but Reggie slipped my mind.
Well, now you know. Now you can add him to your list. And then you hit 2 home runs in 1 inning. Is that right?
Twice.
Well, I have it on my notes. I know you did it twice.
Yeah.
That's insanity. How in the world did that happen, and how did it happen twice? How did you hit 2 home runs in 1 inning? So tell us about those two games. Like, what was going on?
Well, if I remember correctly, was one in Atlanta.
You tell me. You were there. I wasn't.
Pittsburgh. See, I don't remember last week, so
I'm going to have the team look it up.
No, one was against the Cubs because I know I was a Cub killer before I got to Wrigley.
And is that why they snagged you? Is because you were killing them?
I don't think so. I was, you know, because of collusion, I didn't really trick them, but I gave them a blank contract and sort of forced their hand to signing me because I always enjoyed daytime baseball, Wrigley Field, natural playing surface. They had fans all around the country.
Did a lot of players complain about the astroturf?
A lot did. I saw players tear ACLs.
I mean, it's just insanity.
I saw Terry Francona tear both of his ACLs playing on astroturf.
Is there artificial turf in today's
Well, it's
game?
different now.
It's
different
easier
now.
on the body.
Yeah, now it's, you know, they have the stuff made like it's grass.
Okay.
So it's a lot easier, and there's not the constant pounding.
Even my kids playing youth sports, you know, the game of soccer, when it's turf, it's like my kids are going to get injured. Like, it's just not, obviously it's not the quality for youth sports, but I think it's insanity that they have our kids playing on that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just super injury prone.
Yeah, I'm glad that, you know, I played on it 10 years before they even decided that they were going to change it, but I was gone at that point.
Yeah.
And it gets to be like concrete. That's what it feels like. So I had to learn how to play in turf shoes, and that's a rubber bottom.
Yep.
Because I like to dig in at the plate. So there would be times when I would wear a spike on the back foot and a turf shoe on the front foot. I get to first base or wherever, I'll take the spike off and put the turf shoe back on. So I had to make myself learn how to play in the rubber bottom shoes.
And did it all start in the Astrodome? Is that where it all began?
Yeah, I would say yeah. The seventh wonder of the world.
Yeah, they yeah, I think they were super proud of it, and then obviously we realized that it probably wasn't the greatest invention. But yeah. Anyway, it's been amazing to have this conversation with you. The name of the show is Live Life by Design. So it's essentially living your life on your terms, on your ground. You dictate your life. You don't let people tell you how to live. You live on your own terms. And that's one thing that you did throughout your entire career. Like, you did it all the Andre Dawson way. You did it your way, and congrats for a remarkable career and everything that you've accomplished. And there's a lot of guiding principles that we've taken away.
I really had a good support group. I came from a household where I didn't really have a father figure. The father figure was my uncles. My grandmother was a huge role model. She was like my mother. And her principles were always be mindful of your blessings. Be thankful of your blessings and pray and be thankful before you even receive your blessings. She was no nonsense advocate of education, always trying to instill that was going to be your stepping stone in life. And don't be afraid to fail. That's how you're going to learn. And trust in yourself and your ability and be honest with yourself. And I just tried to carry those principles with me, and I just always give it my best effort and not really worry about what the outcome was.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. A lot of great gems. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.